5 p.m. And we move to a safety alert this afternoon. Is your teen among the majority who report using an AI chatbot? Well, according to a recent survey by Pew Research Center, 70% of U.S. teens report having used a chatbot at least once. More than 2/3 of teens ages 15 to 17 say they've used them. That's more often compared to other age groups. Now, 3 in 10 teens say they use them, quote, almost constantly. And according to the report, ChatGPT tops the list as most widely used AI platform. Many teens use AI for homework help, but a 2025 Common Sense Media survey shows 72% have used it for companionship. Talking with the bots instead of interacting with real people, 21% did so a few times per week. Now, joining us is Shawnee Butler, a licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Now, what have you seen in the heartland when it comes to teens who use AI?
I mean, definitely kids these days are very attached to the technology that we have and social media. So unfortunately, I feel like we see that with more of that use, we lose some of that in-person connection, which then in turn, we limit our social skills. Which then can lead to more isolation. So it's actually quite scary for us with a lot of our youth that they are clinging more to technology than to in-person connection.
Now, what is some advice that you may have for teens, not teens, but parents or guardians who have teens who are maybe, they have access to phones a lot of times, who may use the AI chatbots?
Well, definitely having conversations with them, being transparent is always key. But talk to them about how to use this technology appropriately. And I would definitely suggest to look into it yourself. We have to speak from experience, play around with the AI yourself so that you're coming from that place of, I know what this platform can do, and this is what, I think can be helpful, what may not be helpful. So you're not just dictating what to do from a place of not knowing what it's all about.
Now, why do you think that more teens are turning to AI for friendship or just advice in general?
I definitely think it comes down to that lack of social skills, because with so much social media, which is a totally different type of connection, they're losing that ability to have social skills. And if you lose that ability, the more you're kind of enabling that fear, you're not going to get out there and be more sociable. So, but we need connection, because as human beings, we have to have connection. So it's kind of understandable that they would try to get that connection need met using AI companionship.
Yeah. And when we're talking about connection, how can parents connect more with their teens?
Yeah, I mean, just having those conversations, because what is it that they are asking the AI platform that maybe they're not comfortable asking their parent about? Because AI is not going to ever replace like human connection. There's just so many different nuances. They can't look into your nonverbal cues, your body language, know your history, and who knows your history more so than your own parents.
How important is it for parents to have those conversations with their children when it comes to using AI? Many people, like we mentioned, they use it for everything.
Yeah. And again, I think that there are some good uses, but I think that's where that transparent conversation can come in and be like, this is what I use it for and what has been helpful. But what do you want to use it for? And so trying to get those open lines of communication to get the kids to feel comfortable, but we have to be comfortable ourselves as parents to try the new technology and then also just talk to them about it.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about your knowledge on this and checking in.